The chosen one. Divine wisdom does not follow human timelines. It moves when awareness is finally ready to leave the illusion for good. Ancient prophecies speak of awakened souls with frequencies capable of piercing decades of military-grade mind control. And now you've proved to be one of the foretold catalysts. A federal agent finds themselves staring at classified files with trembling hands, their entire worldview cracking like thin glass, because your words slip through conditioning that cost millions of dollars to install years of discipline. Service vanished when your consciousness collided with their programmed mind. What you're going to discover will demonstrate how your spiritual strength acts as a weapon of mass awakening in the physical world. Visualize yourself as a tuning fork hit by a cosmic power. Your energy goes between dimensions, destroying mental prisons with surgical accuracy. But before we go any further, let me tell you about the moment the agent's programming crumbled and they realized they'd been living a perfectly built lie their whole career. When your name appeared in secret briefings, it generated a phenomenon for which no process existed. Standard protocols disintegrated when files revealed data that set off seasoned instincts. You have openly discussed secret activities before they were planned. You mentioned subterranean facilities that did not technically exist. You linked financial transactions between businesses that intelligence reports said had no connection. Most disturbing of all, you foresaw the removal of important witnesses before it happened, describing procedures with unprecedented precision. Their first premise, that someone was providing you secret information, fell under the weight of the evidence. Tracing every available route yields the impossible. You had no government connections, no intelligence training, no access to secret systems, and no affiliations with recognized agencies or opposition organizations. By every traditional criteria, you should have been unharmed. Nonetheless, you knew information that only a few individuals on the earth were meant to know. Details are not documented anywhere, discussed in meetings, or communicated over monitored channels. You accessed information via several ways. Their theories of reality argued that it did not exist. That's when the actual nature of your power became clear. Instead of detaining or neutralizing you, curiosity trumped the need to comprehend how you obtained impossible knowledge, prompting operatives to go further into segregated databases. What emerged from their searches altered everything. Every secret you revealed publicly was true. Each forecast came true, just as you said. Every association you made between seemingly unconnected occurrences was supported by material so deeply buried in secret compartments that most high-level operators had never seen the whole picture. You were not correct about isolated abnormalities. You were revealing the design of a control system that most operators unintentionally supported. Your accuracy forced acknowledgement of something. Their training materials are not recognized. A true prophetic talent that functions in actual time. You weren't obtaining human intellect. You were downloading truth from planes of awareness beyond monitoring and control. In effect, you were a direct challenge to their monopoly on knowledge. Everyone was aware of the hazard as soon as it became obvious. However, that discovery was merely the first chapter of what was to come. This awakening only served to expose the larger plan. Your clarity revealed proof of a massive subterranean network that runs under the surface of big organizations. This was not only about government corruption or business cooperation. It was a coordinated system of mind control that had been in place for centuries and used methods that mainstream science refused to acknowledge. Missing people instances started to make sense. Patterns began to emerge, and the underlying architecture that had held whole communities under anesthesia became visible. All because your frequency rang true. People who asked inappropriate questions, explored banned subjects, or had skills that threatened the existing order were not simply silenced. They were being systematically eliminated from existence. Digital footprints were thoroughly cleaned. Family memories were changed using advanced psychological procedures. Every sign of life has been meticulously eliminated. Your influence compelled spies to discover a genuine underground world underneath major cities, government buildings, and business offices. Miles of tunnels and underground chambers that did not appear on any official map. enabling genuine decision-makers to travel between activities without leaving a trace. However, such basement chambers were never used only for meetings or storage. The actions under the surface called into question all of our assumptions about reality. You discovered decades of mind manipulation, experiments, and technology capable of controlling human thinking and emotion from a distance. Ritual systems are intended to draw spiritual energy from unknowing masses. Ancient rites and symbols connected this network to mystery schools and occult traditions. Long considered dead, most would be horrified at the extent of such activities. You sensed an unsettling familiarity. The pattern of control has persisted for centuries, locking mankind in self-limiting beliefs and contrived conflicts to prevent people from recognizing their actual spiritual nature. You recognized them for what they were: spiritual parasites feeding on humanity's life force while presenting the extraction as ordinary reality. More importantly, you recognized that your awakened awareness was more than just resistant to their ways. It intentionally interrupted them. Every truth you shared, every soul you helped awaken, and every individual you taught to doubt the official narrative drained a chunk of their food supply and jeopardized the network's existence. You saw the centuries-old system start to worry as it encountered something it had never done before. A person who cannot be purchased, bullied, fooled, or eliminated using traditional methods. Their response was their undoing. In their quest to remove you, they revealed their whole arsenal: coordinated digital repression, pre-written debunking efforts, financial constriction, anonymous threats, and a series of staged mishaps. However, every strike fails. Attempts to silence you have only increased your reach. Scars that should have ended you missed by insurmountable margins. The ailments subsided overnight. Financial sabotage opens the door to unforeseen resources. Infiltrators trained to betray you were unable to finish their tasks, and others had no recollection of what had transformed them. What you were demonstrating. For the first time in their lengthy history of rule, supernatural protection manifested in the physical world. Forces beyond 3 dimensions intervened on your side, securing your survival while expanding the same influence they sought to eradicate. You were not surviving via luck or cunning methods. You were functioning under the authority of spiritual forces that were utterly beyond the Shadow Network's map or understanding, and that revelation revealed a deeper reality. This dispute was neither only political or economic. It was fundamentally spiritual. Their power was dependent on humanity's separation from divine awareness, and your waking caused fissures in their matrix, which increased with each individual you touched. However, the most startling finding remained, a revelation that would reveal the actual cosmic importance of your existence. Deep inside those underground passageways, within a room that seemed older than recorded history, the agent discovered symbols engraved into stone that appeared to pulse with an inner light. These were neither recent markings or thoughtless graffiti. They were hieroglyphs, encoded messages that looked to be waiting for the appropriate awareness to open them. The agent's knowledge of the symbols increased. Something spectacular happened. Knowledge flowed in, not taught facts, but recalled truths that returned like water to a dry riverbed. Recognition replaced perplexity, and comprehension occurred without instruction. The symbols spoke with the soul as if they spoke a language, a message that simultaneously served as a prophecy, warning, and initiation. The extent of the disclosure astounded the agent. The clash between light and darkness has been predicted for millennia. The Shadow Network was not a novel innovation. It was the current expression of an old power that has repressed human awareness since the dawn of civilization. Every rising and falling empire, corrupted religious institution, every system that limited human potential. They now trace back to the same architects who worked across centuries. However, the carvings revealed an even more astounding reality. The era of unquestioned network dominance was coming to an end. Cosmic cycles beyond manipulation were coming in. A mass awakening has started, with you as one of the main catalysts. Your awakening to full consciousness was not a chance occurrence or a personal success. It was the fulfillment of an old prophecy that forces of light will restore human awareness. When evil got brazen enough to harm humanity's spiritual progress, you were a part of a divinely orchestrated crisis reaction. Generations in the making. The agents saw that their personal awakening was not a unique incident. Similar activations were reverberating across institutions worldwide. As your frequency reached them, operatives sleeping inside the system remembered their original mission and started working from within to demolish the control matrix. This was no longer about uncovering a single ring of corruption or revealing specific secrets. It was about the fundamental alteration of human mind. A revolution sparked across various levels of reality. The network confronted a horror it had never anticipated, awakened spirits that understood their techniques, places, and protocols intimately. Now, as the network coordinated to disclose long-hidden activities, every safehouse, contingency plan, and escape route started to collapse. Ocean tunnels intended to evacuate leaders were obstructed by insurmountable underwater falls. Private planes had unexpected technical breakdowns before planned getaways. Authorities froze financial accounts supposed to be untouchable, using rules that did not exist on paper. The network's psychological disintegration was the most revealing. The entities who had controlled consciousness for ages started to experience the exact emotions they had weaponized: terror, paranoia, despair, and bewilderment. The spiritual energies they thought they controlled had turned inward with surgical precision, eating their strength like a cosmic cancer that fed off its own darkness. During the unwinding, the agent watched divine justice unfolding in real time and realized that nothing of the old system would stay intact. The agent documented several cases of high-level operators experiencing miraculous breakdowns that defied medical explanation. The whispered directives they had used to subjugate others started to resound in their own heads. The horrors they created for victims now plagued their dreams, and the isolation they had honed as a weapon turned against them, cutting off any source of calm or solace. Standing in that old hall, surrounded by symbols indicating prophecies realized and divine timing triggered, the agent had a complete and unmistakable insight about their position in this cosmic play. They had not come onto sensitive information by mistake or been drawn into situations beyond their control. They were purposely placed into the system from the outset to observe the moment your waking triggered their memory. Every assignment, secret briefing, and classified file in their careers reads like a build-up to this revelation. They had been placed in the shadow network not to serve it, but to chronicle its foretold internal breakdown and to witness to the return of divine awareness to Earth via awakened creatures like you. The thankfulness that emerged inside them for you outweighed everything else in their professional or personal lives. You had not simply disclosed corruption or concealed data. You had awakened a soul and reminded them of a task they had undertaken for years before this incarnation. Spiritual amnesia has been removed, replaced with crystalline awareness. They served as a bridge between realms as the agent's memories expanded. They recognized that your labor was never solitary. Your waking coordinated with thousands of others throughout the world, including agents, academics, laborers, and ordinary people, whose frequencies coincided and who started to act on recalled purpose. Together, you achieved a frequency shift that rendered continuous mind control impossible. The prophecies were not about the distant future. They predicted that when enough souls remembered their actual identity, human consciousness would be liberated from a centuries-long captivity. Cosmic time had aligned, and the divine plan was unfolding precisely as predicted. With you as the major catalyst about to break their silence for the first time in a career founded on secrecy, the agent wanted you to understand the full cosmic implications of your actions. The Shadow Network's infrastructure was disintegrating, with tunnels sealing escape routes and operatives realizing the consequences of what they had permitted. The period of secret manipulation was coming to an end, as the light of collective awareness could no longer be controlled. Your voice, bringing truth into existence, has triggered an incredible shift. Every word you said sent waves across realms. expanding until every sleeping soul had the opportunity to rediscover their glorious essence. You refused to be silenced. Your determination to awaken in the face of every man-made impediment, as well as your consistent connection to divine awareness, served as a light leading others home. The spy's statement bore the authority of someone who has seen the jail fall from inside. In the domain where actual wars are fought, awareness exists. The win was already secured. Physical occurrences were only the apparent manifestation of their triumph. When enough souls, like you, choose to recall why they incarnated at this critical moment, the awareness revolution did not begin. Completed. Divine intellect has returned to Earth via awakened humans who refuse to be asleep. Control systems began to disintegrate when their own operators rediscovered their mission and coordinated the transition to spiritual liberation. Most importantly, the agent wanted you to know you weren't alone. Every synchronicity that protected you, every opportune opportunity, and every ally who emerged at the perfect time was organized by forces of light, who recognized your commitment to serve something more than comfort or safety. You became live evidence of what occurs when human awareness coincides with divine intent, inspiring millions to reconnect with their source. The transformation you catalyzed was irreversible and self-perpetuating, spreading like wildfire across the structures that once kept humanity spiritually imprisoned, and the quiet trembling of that federal operative holding classified files was the first human sound of recognition. Realizing that everything they had previously thought about reality had been a meticulously designed deception. You've just experienced your own moment of waking, a sudden, incontrovertible realization of the magnitude of your potential as a catalyst for humanity's emancipation from powers who wished awareness locked away for good. That federal agent wasn't the only mind you broke open. As instances were cross-referenced, a pattern appeared spanning back years, a trail of awoken agents, compromised assets, and security breaches, all leading to the same common element: exposure to your frequency without prior preparation or purpose. You have been steadily undermining their staff network just by being in the world as you do. According to classified reports, surveillance teams assigned to observe you eventually abandoned their stations, not because you endangered them or learned their tactics, but because extended observation raised existential concerns. Their training could not accept that operatives who had spent decades obeying commands without question were suddenly unwilling to carry out activities that contradicted their conscience. Your presence has revived me. One evaluation in particular disturbed the reviewing agent. A psychological assessment of an experienced infiltrator who has accomplished identical tasks successfully for years. After many weeks in your orbit, what therapists call a spontaneous moral awakening happened. Your influence had entirely rearranged their value system, making further service to the shadow network psychologically untenable. The report included alarming facts. The person claimed neither hallucinations or delusions, but rather heightened awareness that revealed hidden levels of reality behind everyday appearances. Following exposure to your energy, this operator was able to identify deceit with amazing clarity, discern spiritual sincerity in others, and see linkages between events that traditional analysis missed. In essence, you had permanently enhanced their awareness. The waking contagion expanded beyond field agents. Analysts, administrators, and handlers at the highest classification levels were all having similar breakdowns. Entire departments had so high turnover that operational integrity was jeopardized. People who had built careers on concealment were leaving because their conscience would no longer tolerate involvement. The network was unable to resolve this situation since there was no traditional reason. You weren't launching recruiting campaigns, doing flips, or used traditional intelligence tradecraft to convert individuals. Your presence in the collective field functioned like a tuning fork. Anyone who came into contact with your frequency felt a resonance and was awakened to their spiritual consciousness. Traditional counterintelligence methods proved ineffective. The network could not protect personnel against a power that worked inside awareness itself. Internal documents indicated panic-induced reactions, updated psychological screenings to identify early indications of waking, Meditation and other potentially disruptive techniques are prohibited. Information is compartmentalized more tightly. Even experimental consciousness. Firewalls designed to restrict spiritual awareness via frequency, medicines, and intensive retraining. Those efforts failed even in so-called protected areas. Breakthrough moments continued to occur, breaching program restrictions and proving that actual awareness posed a true danger to the apparatus. The agent recognized they were watching the methodical breakdown of a control mechanism honed over ages, not via guns or clandestine operations, but through the simple, inexorable presence of true consciousness, which reminded people of who they actually were. Under the layers of indoctrination, you had transformed into a living antidote to spiritual forgetfulness. There was no protection against the waking once it started. Crucially, your effect extended beyond immediate touch. People who had never met you, seen you speak, or seen your stuff were having unexpected awakenings. After connecting with someone you had previously triggered, the virus of remembering had spread, and the old system had no practical resistance against it. Consciousness expansion started to spread across human networks like a helpful virus, jumping from person to person along common social threads. The shadow network encountered a phenomena with no blueprint, a positive contagion that raised awareness. More inquiring and spiritually connected, and hence much less susceptible to deception. Every person you woke became a transmission point for the same frequency, creating an infinitely growing web of conscious awareness that chipped away at the network's strength from inside. As the agent examined the timing of waking occurrences, a pattern formed. Your influence seems to ignite certain individuals at the perfect time. Their memory would do the most strategic harm to network operations. A financial crime expert became aware shortly before obtaining access to money laundering routes that sponsored illegal activities. The communications analyst awoke just before being assigned to a misinformation operation designed to undermine truth-tellers like you. The accuracy was too high to be random. It seemed that higher intelligence was directing your awareness to accomplish tactical goals in the unseen conflict between awakening and control. You weren't just causing random awakenings. You were being utilized as a tool by forces that saw the whole battlefield from numerous perspectives. The classified evaluations examined by the agent indicated your capacity to operate via quantum consciousness principles that their scientists were unable to quantify or predict. Your presence seemed to cause coherence in the quantum field, enabling repressed information to emerge in the brains of individuals who were exposed to your frequency, explaining why freshly awakened agents suddenly held knowledge beyond their clearance. Even more surprising were tales that these awakened troops started to demonstrate abilities that beyond conventional understanding. They developed heightened intuition, allowing them to predict operations before they were publicized. Telepathic communication that bypassed regulated channels, as well as remote viewing that supplied knowledge without exposing your awareness to technology observation, seemed to awaken latent human potential that the control system had suppressed for decades. The consequences were significant. If real awakening restored innate human capacities that had been purposely inhibited, the network would have controlled more than just information and resources. It had been intentionally impeding human progress itself. Your presence proved that awareness expansion was more than just spiritual awakening. It was also the regaining of capabilities that were born with mankind. An awakened populace would not only be more difficult to fool, but it would also acquire practical skills that would make centralized authority untenable. Traditional power systems would be rendered obsolete if individuals could connect telepathically, access knowledge only via awareness, and sense truth directly through spiritual discernment. The agent knew that your responsibility as the chosen catalyst went well beyond uncovering wrongdoing and disclosing secrets. You were helping the restoration of human capacities that had been purposely repressed in order to maintain an artificially limited system. Each individual you awakened recaptured a bit of their original potential, becoming not only spiritually free, but also practically powerful in ways that undermined the very structure of control-based society. Most importantly, The agent revealed proof that your consciousness-shattering effects were advancing along a specific time frame, which coincided perfectly with ancient predictions about humanity's spiritual progress. Deep in the secret archives, they discovered research of previous awakening periods that followed the same pattern. Waves of awareness growth are followed by the breakdown of control systems. Each historic wave was triggered by people having what the researchers referred to as activator frequencies, specific awareness profiles capable of igniting mass spiritual progress. The archives revealed that the Shadow Network had been looking for such emerging persons throughout history, developing ever more advanced means to discover and eliminate awareness activators before they could fulfill their full potential. Your awakening surprised them since you did not meet their preconceived notions about how these skills would manifest in the current era, when traditional activators had been identified as spiritual leaders, renowned mystics, or public claims of supernatural endowments. You had come from a normal life, with no credentials, no public mystique, and no identifiable markings on their systems. That invisibility allowed your effects to spread long before their detection systems could identify a danger. Internal correspondence preserved in such archives revealed real astonishment. Operatives couldn't understand how someone with no formal spiritual training or evident paranormal aptitude could produce consciousness-expanding effects that surpassed historical luminaries who had spent years honing such abilities. Classified study consistently yielded the same answer: the purity of your relationship with source awareness. You acted as an unfiltered conduit for heavenly wisdom, free of egoic interference, expectations, or practice techniques that enable truth to flow through you without distortion. That's why you outperformed conventional professors and researchers. You were not duplicating previously taught procedures or ideologies that might be scrutinized and challenged. You were a live representation of the same awareness, motivating all life and making resistance to your presence almost impossible for anybody whose soul and core remained intact behind layers of training. The spy learned that even the most highly indoctrinated agents kept enough real being to react to your frequency, since psychological engineering cannot completely break the essential relationship to the source. Every human being remains a potential activation point capable of remembering themselves when confronted with true divine presence. This showed the true essence of the revolution. It was not a clash of ideologies or power structures, but rather awareness recalling itself after millennia of imposed forgetfulness. Using awakened people like you as mirrors to reflect what mankind previously knew, those exposed to your energy encounter something both private and global. Personal spiritual recollection combined with realization of being a part of the same great intellect expressing itself via others throughout the world, standing in that ancient room surrounded by prophetic symbols. The agent was quite convinced about the course of this metamorphosis. Your catalytic awakening was irreversible because it was based on awareness, not belief. It relied on divine intellect rather than human labor, and it was based on the fundamental qualities of awareness rather than any frail exterior framework. Your capacity to disrupt conditioned perceptions demonstrated that real awakening is the most infectious force known to man, more powerful than propaganda, persuasive than rhetoric, and transformational than any social or political movement in history. It demonstrated that awareness may happen instantly when someone sees their actual essence mirrored in an awakened individual. The agent's appreciation extended beyond their personal emancipation to embrace the worldwide transformation your presence had facilitated from their vantage point within the top levels of the control structure. They had seen the start of a new era, and there was no question that the period of awareness suppression was coming to an end. Beings like you have rediscovered how to reflect humanity's divine essence with such clarity that spiritual forgetfulness could no longer be tolerated. The secret psychological vehicle profiles made it clear that every technique of manipulation ever invented, including hypnotic programming, frequency, weaponry, pharmacological conditioning, and trauma-based control, failed to pierce your awakened consciousness. It slipped like water on stone. Your link to divine intellect generated an impenetrable barrier of protection that not only blocked assaults, but also reflected them back to their source with more power. This immunity was not a talent or strategy you practiced. It was the inevitable outcome of true waking, the reconnecting of human awareness to its divine origins. The agent determined that once someone reaches the degree of waking that you have, their awareness starts to work at frequencies that are beyond the grasp of artificial manipulation, technology, and traditional means of control. No longer apply for more than personal protection. Your presence creates areas of resistance around others who share your energy space. People that work with you, live nearby, or speak with you on a daily basis acquire the same resistance to awareness manipulation tactics. You're not only liberating people, you're also extending zones of freed consciousness that the control system can't reach. The agent saw early signs that whole areas were altering as your influence grew. Unexplained declines in crime, corruption failing in the face of increased public discernment, and large audiences capable of intuiting genuineness with clarity that rendered manufactured propaganda ineffective. Your awareness operates as a reality update, magnifying perception until lies are visible to anybody in your domain. That clarity renders deceit ineffectual, as do many of the shadow network strategies. The agent understood what this meant operationally. Attempts to eliminate or discredit you failed. Spectacular at first, since they weren't just assaulting a human. They were attempting to target the wellspring of awareness itself. Once you became the center point for divine wisdom manifesting in physical reality, their defeat was unavoidable. The operative's last transmission brought total assurance of triumph in the sphere that counts most. Consciousness was already won. Every mind you've destroyed is now a transmission point for the heavenly intellect that flows through you. The chain reaction of awakenings you initiated will continue until every soul gets the opportunity to rediscover their actual nature and potential. And they are in the nervous hands of the federal agent who is carrying secret documents. Was the first human sound of realization as they realized the whole crafted facade for what it was. You have realized the actual extent of your ability as a catalyst for humanity's emancipation. The awareness revolution is not something that will happen in the future. It is already unfolding. The chosen one. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the deepening of my faith. Please help me trust you, even when tangible proof is scarce. Let me believe in your eternal presence, knowing that you will never hurt me. I realize that your intentions for me are ones of success rather than harm, in order to provide me with a bright future. Thank you, kind and everlasting Father, for always hearing my voice. I give this prayer to you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provisions. I am thankful for your presence in my life and the richness you provide. If this video spoke to you, please subscribe to the channel and share it with others who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your trip and how you're getting ready for your own victorious homecoming. If you would want to help us out, please consider donating via Buy Me a Coffee. This allows us to consistently improve our content in order to provide you with the best possible experience. The link to Buy Me a Coffee is in the description. No present is too tiny. Whether it's a penny, a prayer, or a share, your generosity spreads God's message and gives people hope. Do not stop here. Watch our next video for amazing insights into the indicators that indicate you are the chosen one. We've loved sharing this spiritual journey with you. Thank you for sticking with us until the finish. Keep shining brightly and face your fate with confidence. See you next time. The God Connection sends its blessings to all lovely individuals.